Sunday, and today we're going to I'm going to be making a chicken. And so this chicken is actually for my dinner today, but it is a good recipe for a Sunday dinner, a weekday, a weekend, and it's also really good for the holidays. I know during the holidays we tend to cook a lot of turkey and ham, but this is a great chicken recipe that's a little bit different, and I think that your crowd would love it. So we have some chicken thighs and some legs, but you can use whatever you like. You can use thighs, legs, breast, wings. You can even do a whole chicken. And this recipe is roasted chicken with lemongrass, saffron, butter, and rosemary. Now, I know everyone may not be fond of rosemary. I was not fond of it at the beginning, but I love this recipe. I had a similar chicken at a restaurant and decided I wanted to create my own version of this chicken, so I hope you all will enjoy it. It is a lemongrass, saffron, and rosemary chicken. I can't wait to make it for you all. We're going to start by searing it on the stove top a little bit, and then we're going to finish it in the oven. And this is a great recipe, like I said, for the holidays with the butter and the rosemary, and you can even add fresh thyme to it, and it just gives you that holiday vibe or feel to it. So I'm excited, can't wait to get started, and then we will see the finished product at the end. So this is one of my favorite chicken recipes. So we have some chicken thighs, and we have some legs, we have some lemongrass. And if you can't find fresh lemongrass in the store, it's so hard to find, I use this lemongrass paste and it works really well. We have rosemary, saffron, and then some garlic herb butter. So it is a rosemary, saffron, and lemongrass chicken, and it's so good. And it's a little bit messy starting it, but we're gonna put all of our ingredients in here, rub it around, and you wanna let it marinate at least 3 hours. If you can marinate it longer, like overnight, that's even better. So I'm gonna start with the butter, and we're gonna use well, you know what? My butter is really soft. That was another thing. I left the butter out because I wanted to get it room temperature. So I'm going to add that last so that once I put it in there, I don't get my hands too messy. So I like a lot of lemongrass. So I'm going to add about 4 good skirts of the lemongrass. And it's so funny because the first time I made this, I had a similar chicken in a restaurant, and I thought it was really good, and I kept saying, I don't like rosemary. I don't like rosemary. And I love the chicken, so I had to come home and recreate it a little bit. So we have the fresh rosemary, and you just kind of want to break off pieces. Not a lot because rosemary is very strong. But what we're going to do is, right before we cook the chicken, we're going to we're going to chop up some rosemary and add it to it. So I added about half of the stem of the rosemary, and saffron will give it a really nice color. So I'm going to, and saffron is expensive, so you want to be careful with how you use it. I'm just going to add a few sprigs of the saffron, maybe a little bit more. And we won't season our chicken now. We'll season it right before we cook it. And we have our saffron. I have the oven going set at 450 because we're going to sear it on the stove, and then we're going to roast it off. So we have our, if you can see, we have our lemongrass, we have our rosemary, and we have our saffron and our chicken thighs. And the chicken has been pre-cleaned and taking the fat out also. And we have our garlic herb butter. And I left this out to let it get room temperature. So I'm going to, so it gets really messy, And I'm going to make sure I get all the butter in there. And I'm not going to leave any of this. Just want to make sure I scrape that off with the glove. And that's why I said I was going to do this last, because I wanted to get the glove dirty last, not right when I got started. So I'm going to set that to the side. And we just want to rub our chicken, rub all the butter, rub the rosemary, the saffron. We're going to mix all of that in. And like I said, we're going to let this marinate. You can do it for up to 3 hours, but if you can let it marinate longer, that's even better. And the butter has the garlic and herb to it. So this is a messy dish. It's not a pretty one when you start off. It gets pretty messy with all the butter, but you just kind of want to get it on the chicken. And I'm going to come back and clean up my sides of the bowl. And I'm going to let mine marinate overnight. And I may give it a stir maybe after 3 hours in. I'm sorry, maybe 12 hours, not 3. 12 hours in, because I'm going to let it marinate for 24 hours. So we have our garlic herb butter, our rosemary, and our saffron. And I'm going to take these gloves off because I'm going to get a paper towel and kind of clean around my bowl. I hate a messy bowl, and I know it happens sometimes, but I am going to clean around the bowl. And I just have a paper towel. It's going to come through and clean it up. And I'm going to wrap it and put it in the fridge. But what I think I'm going to do is, after the 12 hours, I will season it. So I'm going to season it with a little bit of pepper, a little bit of salt, some garlic powder, and some onion powder. And then let it marinate the last 12 hours. But we have our butter, we have our saffron, we have our rosemary, and our butter's garlic herb, and we have our lemongrass, and we're just going to let that marinate. All right, so we have our pan on the stove with a little bit of olive oil in it. We didn't put a lot of olive oil because we have butter already on the chicken, and then we have the cooktop, I'm sorry, set to between low and medium because we want to get a sear on each side of the chicken. And then I have the oven turned to 400 on a roast setting. If you don't have a roast setting, that's fine. You can bake it at 350 degrees. And then I have my glass dish or my pan next to me so that as I sear the chicken and I take it out, I can put it inside of the pan. So I'll show you all. We have our chicken, and the chicken has been marinating overnight. It has the butter, the lemongrass, the saffron, and the rosemary, and then I seasoned it with a little bit of pepper, a little bit of thyme, a little bit of oregano, a little Italian blend, garlic, and onion powder. No salt, but we will check this recipe as it comes out, and we may just sprinkle it with a little bit of salt. You can add salt if you like. It's up to you. Once again, I follow a low sodium diet, so I try to watch how much salt I have. I think our pan is good. It's gonna kind of move. Oh yeah, it's perfect. Move it around a little bit with the oil, and I probably turn it down. And I'm gonna start by searing the thighs first, and I'm gonna sear them with the skin side down. Now, I love boneless, skinless chicken thighs. Those are one of my favorites. But with this dish, that's a tongue twister. With this dish, the skin will get nice and crispy, so that's a good side to it. So we're just going to start by taking our thighs, And we're going to put them skin side down. So here we got a nice sear in our pan. Got a little splatter as well. I was telling someone the other day about overcrowding the pan. So you can turn your pan on and get it nice and hot. But once you put something that's in there that's out of the refrigerator or just room temperature, it's going to drop the temperature of the pan and the oil. So you never want to overcrowd your pan. And what I like to do anytime that I just went ahead and turned the dial up a little bit back to like between low and medium. But whenever I'm cooking meat or anything, I like to take it out the refrigerator at least an hour before, even if I marinated it, to make sure that it becomes room temperature so that it's not fully cold when I put it inside of the pan. And we're just going to let this go. And I'm not going to make a gravy or anything out of this sauce, but what I will do, once we get everything seared and brown with a little color on it and put it in the oven, I'm going to take what's in our pan and pour it over the chicken just to give it that extra flavor. I'm going to serve this today with potatoes and a mixed vegetable. I rarely eat potatoes. I do more like brown rice. But for some reason, maybe it's been raining today, the weather, I just feel like a potato. And once again, I'm going to do it in moderation. I like to get the baby potatoes, and I will use them. And I'm going to turn it up a little bit more. I feel like it's not sizzling like I want it to. So I turned it to medium. And I'm just going to check it. Yeah, our skin is getting some color on it, so that's good. And with the saffron, it's going to give it a nice golden brown color. It's just going to add a little extra to it. So if you see where the oil is turning a little bit brown, that's from the saffron. I think we're good. I'm going to turn this down a little bit more. And I'm going to turn it over. And if you see, our chicken is getting a nice color on it. And you just want to get a little brown on the outside, and then you're going to put it into your baking dish for the oven, because it's going to finish inside of the oven. And the rosemary and the lemongrass, the smell is just amazing. So it looks like I'm going to let it go about a couple of minutes on each side before I transfer it into the baking dish. So we get our thighs first, and then we'll do our chicken legs. We'll do those next because they're a little bit smaller, so they won't take as long. And so we have our thighs that have been seared, and we have our legs in the pan now. We're getting them nice and seared with some color on them, and we're going to transfer them to the pan as well that we're going to put in the oven. And if you all can see, we have our chicken. Hope you can see pieces of that popping. Oh boy. I hope you can see pieces of the rosemary. And you can't see the lemongrass, but you should be able to see pieces of the saffron. And then that brown is our butter turning brown. And brown butter is really good. It has almost a nutty flavor to it. So sometimes when you think you're burning the butter, if it's a little bit brown, that's okay, but you can burn it. So you want to watch it, and that's the thing about cooking as well. I like to say when you are cooking, you can't be cooking in the kitchen and then in the bedroom. You have to kind of watch your stuff all the time because temperature can change, the pan can get too hot, things can burn. So you just kind of want to stay on top of it when you're cooking. Like, don't leave the kitchen. I remember when I first started cooking when I was young, my mom always got on me about that because I would be trying to cook and I would want to go watch my TV show or something like that. So she was like, you cannot leave the kitchen when you're cooking. You got to stay and, you know, watch everything. Definitely want to be safe. So we're going to let our chicken finish up. Our legs, we're going to get those in the pan and then we're going to get it in the oven. So it can cook. We're going to put it in the oven on roast for maybe 30 to 35 minutes because we do want our skin to crisp up. So it's going to be really, really good. All right, so all of our chicken has been seared, and in the pan we have the drippings from the chicken as well as what was left from the marinade. We do not want to get rid of this. If you were making a gravy for this, you would just, because it's butter and oil, so when you're making your gravy, to make your roux, you have to have a fat and flour. So the butter and the oil will be your fat, and then the flour would go in, which will help start your roux for your gravy. Because we are not making a gravy today, we're just going to take this and we're going to pour it over our chicken while we roast it in the oven, and we're going to roast it uncovered. And then we have our finished chicken and we roast it in the oven, and it roasts very nicely. It has a great color to it. No gravy. And we just garnished it with the fresh rosemary, and we did it without a gravy on it. And we have steamed vegetables and roasted potatoes. And this chicken is universal. You can make it with any dish. You can do it with chicken. You can do it with rice, potatoes. You can do it by itself. It's a good weekday meal, weekend meal, as well as a good holiday chicken. So something different to do besides your turkey and your ham. And it has a really nice color, and the color comes from the saffron that we put in it as well, and our butter caramelizing, our vegetables, and our potatoes. And you have a full, in this case, Sunday dinner. Rosemary, lemongrass, and saffron chicken. And this is just a little bonus clip. I love this chicken, like I said, so I wanted to show you all too. When I do a video, I do actually cook what I eat. If you can, I do actually eat what I cook. So here's the chicken. I just took a chicken leg and I started eating it. So that's a piece of it that I ate. If you see, the steam is still coming out. It is fresh out of the oven, and it is very tender. See, we'll cut down into it. There we go. If you see, there we go. Finally did it. It's tender. A piece of it. It's so good. I love lemongrass. Try not to talk with my mouth full. Very tender, good piece of chicken. So good. So you all can see I eat what I cook.